I was talking about what it's going to happen. So what's going to happen is, specifically, people are going to start noticing that it's more and more difficult to keep life normal, the way they conceive normalcy. They're going to realize that it's a bigger and bigger struggle to keep doing what we used to do, our traditions, whatever it is. It's just harder. And so they're going to cut back and cut back. And it's going to be harder and harder to keep their jobs because, first of all, the very discretionary throwaway money stops happening, and people start using coupons more, or start being wiser shoppers. But even that doesn't work. There's not enough, and so things get cut back, and businesses will be lost. You reach tipping points where, like the hardware store. It doesn't keep running until it has no customers, in a diminishing state. It tries hard to attract more customers, which costs advertising money, and it tries to lower its prices. It tries to do whatever it can. The management tries to do whatever they can to get more customers. They're still getting customers, but they're not getting enough, and they collapse all of a sudden. You go there. Yesterday you bought screws, and today you go there, and the door's locked, and there's a closed sign. Closed for good, and we're going to have an auction in 2 weeks, and we're going to sell off everything that's left. Well, but I was just bought some stuff yesterday. Yeah, but it wasn't enough, and there's going to be this domino effect. Of now the people that work for the hardware store, they're out of work. And so now they're competing in a labor pool, and so the general effect is that it drives down the wages, and so people have less money to spend, and so then whole countries, whole towns, whole states, whole regions, whole countries will reach a tipping point where it just collapses, and the systems aren't functioning anymore. And along that way, there are good things that could happen, and there are some really scary things that could happen. There could be, the rise of people that say, well, we have to get militaristic about this. We have to control things. If we just control things better, then yada yada yada. It's not a control thing. There's no fixing it. There's Mike and I, my son, we bought milkshakes at McDonald's yesterday, and Mike's sucking on his straw, and I'm sucking on my straw, and all of a sudden Mike gave that sound because he had reached the bottom, and I had been sucking slower, so I could suck on my straw a little bit longer. But eventually I reached the sound too, and mine was gone. It didn't matter that I was sucking it slower. You still reach the end. You still come to the same conclusion. So what's going to happen is just this general unwinding of the progress of man during the Industrial Revolution. And it's not going to go back. We're not going to go back to the way life was in 1869 before Colonel Drake first discovered oil in Titusville, Pennsylvania, or before the guy, I forget his name, discovered oil in Baku, Azerbaijan, in the same year. We're not going to go back to that time. We're not going to go back because none of us know how to live that way anymore. We can't go back. There's no going back. We're going to have to reinvent new things. And so that's what we've been trying to do, is to collect the knowledge and technology, the advances that we've got, and see what's adaptable and what's usable. How do we recycle? The good, I'm just leading on to, here's a good thing. We won't have to go mine a lot of metals. After a bunch of people starve, there'll be metals all over the place. We can just recycle them. So it's good if you're a survivor. You don't have to be a miner. You just go pick it up. There'll be plenty of metal around. No one will care because, unless you got a forge. But what if you don't have a forge? What if you didn't look ahead and you didn't get some books on how to make a forge or how to make charcoal so that you could fire your forge, or how to make tools, or how to test the metal to see what hardness or what the composition is? What if you didn't do that? Then you wouldn't know how to do it. So the biggest fear that I have of this whole event, this whole change that's coming, is the rapid loss of knowledge. There's going to be, there are some people that, their head is full of all kinds of baseball facts. And there's other people, their heads are full of all kinds of, Hollywood facts, or, the latest movies they can tell you. But there are other people that know how to do things. But no one values the stuff that they know how to do right now. No one cares that they know how to manufacture a horseshoe, and how to shoe a horse, and all the other skills that a farrier has, how to make a harness so that you could hitch that horse up to something and do some productive work. No one cares about that stuff. But what if all the farriers die before they can pass that information on? Well, that would be a terrible thing, because then we'd have to reinvent it. See? And, as long as we're talking about horses and things, you can argue this point, but in our family, we've chosen donkeys. Donkeys make more sense than horses. Donkeys have a lot of things going for them. They don't get sick as much as horses do. They have a much longer productive working lifespan. A horse's working lifespan is maybe 4 years. A donkey's working lifespan is 40 years, 10 times longer. Yeah, they can't carry as much. They can't go as fast. They don't have the prestige. But there's a lot of good things about donkeys. Well, here's the problem. There aren't a lot of donkeys laying around. You can't just go down to the donkey store and say, yeah, I'd like to have a couple of donkeys now. I think I can't afford gasoline anymore. I only have to go 5 or 10 kilometers to work, and that's a long way to walk. I think I'd rather have a couple of donkeys in a donkey cart. Well, there aren't any donkey stores. You can't go buy a donkey cart. So what are you going to do? So if you're thinking ahead, you think, well, I better get some donkeys, and I better get some place where I can raise them and grow them up. Well, it takes 4 years for a donkey colt to get to the point where they can handle a full load. 4 years. And you have to wait until they're born, and that takes months, almost a year. Well, it varies. It could be as little as 9 months or as much as 15 months, and it just depends on the nutrition and the health of the mother and all this other stuff. So there's various times. But in any case, you're looking at and then you've got about a year of training, before the donkey's really valuable. So you got 6 years. 6 years. You got to be looking ahead 6 years just for the donkey. Now, if I look ahead 6 years on the energy level, and if I combine the decline in energy production, the rise in the population, and the decline in the amount of oil that the oil exporting countries are going to be willing to export because their population's demanding more oil, and if we don't get it, we're going to kill you, kind of a deal, to the leadership. There's going to be a whole lot of developed nations within that 6-year donkey training span that are going to run out of transportation. They're not going to be able to get through the 6 years. Maybe 3 years from now they say, oh boy, I remember that guy was talking about that. Maybe I should try to find some donkeys. And if they can find one, they still have, that time span where they can make some progress, but they're still going to be walking. They're still going to be dragging their own carts for 3 years. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of preparation. Houses. I live in a cement house out in the middle of the Negev desert. stupid. I don't know what college was teaching people that this was a good way to design a house. But evidently, a lot of colleges did, because this is the way all the houses are built. Concrete ovens in the middle of the desert. Now, people lived in the desert for a long time, and they sure didn't live in these, sweat boxes. And we can build houses that would naturally be cool and naturally be warm at night, naturally be cool in the day. But it takes time to build a house. It takes quite a bit of time. And if you keep driving on, trying to live life normal, hoping to survive until someone figures it out and makes the magic happen again, and we have all this free cheap energy, or low price cheap energy again, almost free, that we don't even have to worry about it or budget it. We just do whatever we want with it. They're going to keep on going, and then suddenly the ma's gone. They're going to put meter boxes, these smart meter boxes, and limit how much energy you can use, because the country can only produce so much energy. It takes years to get a new power plant built, and every year we almost hit those severe brownouts. We hit more and more brownouts every year, and if you think ahead and get it built, it's not so bad. You don't need the Mozgon, okay. But if you don't, boy, it's tough to drill a well whenever you're thirsty. It's tough to build a house whenever you don't have one. It's tough to plant food, and wait for the harvest. I don't know if you knew this or not, but in the past, when food was short, people didn't starve in the fall. People didn't starve in the winter. People didn't starve in the spring. People starved in the summer, just days before the crop was ready to harvest. They almost made it. And getting back to everything I've talked about, like training a donkey takes 6 years. You have to make it the whole way. You have to make it the whole way to the next harvest. You have to make it the whole way for everything. Water, energy, housing. You have to make it the whole way. A bridge that only goes halfway across the river is no good whatsoever. It's got to go the whole way to the other side.